All right. So if there are no questions, then we can directly start the usual program. What we do usually is, once we have completed 1.5 hours of mindfulness practice, which is mindful walking and mindful sitting, then we go for a talk which support what you are doing, for you to have a better understanding of what you are doing, right? And why you do it, and what happens when you do it, and things like that. And then we go for a discussion where I will be answering some of the questions, some of the doubts, or certain things that you can't understand. And especially that time is used to talk about your practicing experience, right? So when you practice, we are going from mindful walking and mindful sitting to some possibly to some place that we don't know. We call it to the unknown. So when you go to the unknown, there will have a lot of changes that are taking place in your physical and mental processes. So those things have got to be clarified. So therefore, that discussion session can be used to provide your practicing report. So that is what we basically do. And our topic for the talk or the sermon is usually something that we have been doing for some time. And it has been a series of talks. And it is based on the Bible of mindfulness, which is 4 foundations of mindfulness. So on the 4 foundations of mindfulness, I'm not quite sure how unfair or how fair it would be for the newcomers. We have discussed quite a lot. Right now, we have almost come to the last part of mindfulness, but you don't miss anything. It is not compulsory for you that you must understand and continue that as a course as such. There is no first year, second year, third year. You can join anytime and start your practice and provide your report. And with that, you will be able to gain better understanding of the of mindfulness. So to give a brief understanding of what we have discussed, the Blessed One has introduced 4 bases or 4 foundations on which you can be mindful of. And they are, you can be mindful of your physical process, you can be mindful of your feelings, you can be mindful of your mind, and then you can be mindful of the general phenomena that is taking place in relation to your physical and mental processes. So those are the 4 foundations. Of those foundations, we have discussed being mindful of the body. We have discussed being mindful of feeling. We have discussed being mindful of the mind. Now we are discussing how you can be mindful of the phenomena. Even after there are, I think we have about 5 sections there. And in those 5 sections, we have discussed 3 sections already. And now we are discussing a section where what happens or what you gain in practicing mindfulness. And if I mention the thing that you will gain by practicing mindfulness, according to the Blessed One, are the tools or the vehicle in which you can go to the final enlightenment. The vehicle in which that you can go to the wisdom, or the word that is technically used is nirvana, right? And that vehicle is called 7 factors of awakening or 7 factors of enlightenment. So in those 7 factors of enlightenment, the first one is the mindfulness, and then the investigation of states, and then the energy, and then comes the rapture, then comes the tranquility, and then comes as the sixth one, concentration, and then comes the equanimity. So those are the 7 tools that you may require in your toolkit when you reach Nibbana. And by you get those 7 factors as a result of practicing mindfulness, right? It may be practicing your walking mindfulness, it may be practicing your sitting mindfulness, or it may be as a result of your day-to-day mindfulness. And you will not see that these things are happening, but they will gradually develop. It's a process, and you will gradually develop these 7 factors. So in the discussion today, we are going to discuss the tranquility as a factor for awakening, tranquility as a factor for enlightenment, right? So before that, there are 4 factors which we have already discussed. I will just give a brief summary of that once again. And before I get on to the tranquility factor or anything, any other factor, I just want to mention that in the 4 foundations of mindfulness, Blessed One is not introducing, or Blessed One is not explaining the 7 factors of mindfulness. And only thing he is doing there is he's telling the nature of 7 factors of mindfulness. And this is how he says, this is how he has mentioned for all other 4 factors that we have developed. And it will be the same thing that he will mention for the other 2 factors that we are yet to discuss. And it's the same thing for the factor that we are discussing today. So I will recite that section that we are discussing today, where he is introducing the nature of these factors. He says, there is the case where there being tranquility as a factor for awakening present within. He discerns that the tranquility as a factor for awakening is present within me. Or there being no tranquility as a factor for awakening present within, he discerns that tranquility as a factor for awakening is not present within me. He discerns how there is the arising of unarisen tranquility as a factor for awakening, and he discerns how there is a culmination of the development of tranquility as a factor for awakening once it has arisen. So this is the nature, right? So we usually have the understanding, not the understanding. The nature of the mind is that when we develop this tranquility, or when we develop these factors of enlightenment, that they will be there with us forever and they will not change. Everything else will change, but these will not change. That is not the case. In 4 foundations of mindfulness, Blessed One says, you will know when it is there, you will know when it is not there, you will know what is not there when it is rising, and you will know once it is arisen, how it will culminate and how it will develop to its fullest extent possible. So the important thing in the entire 4 foundations of mindfulness is just your knowing. The Blessed One is encouraging us, inviting us, asking us, requesting us just to be aware of whatever it is. It may be pleasant, it may be unpleasant. It may be spiritual or maybe otherwise. Doesn't matter. You ask the question yourself, are you aware of it? If you are aware of it, then you will neither like it nor dislike it. We have a problem only when we want to hold onto it. Only when we want to grab it for us. And in mindfulness, what the Blessed One says is, all these are changing, you just be aware. That's the simple message. So before coming on to the tranquility, before going into the changing nature of these factors, you should understand what they are. So I have taken this opportunity to explain what these things are. So when we were researching for this, I found another discourse where the Blessed One has given these 7 factors, and those 7 factors are having linear relationship, direct relationship, and the preceding one is complementing the next one to arise. So if I start with the mindfulness as a factor for awakening, as a factor for enlightenment, and the Blessed One says, you can say that mindfulness as a factor for enlightenment when the mindfulness is unremitting. If the mindfulness has the quality of unremittance, unwavering, very firm, I repeat the word, unremitting mindfulness. Unremitting mindfulness means not that you continue to have your awareness to the walking, not that you continue to have your awareness to your breath. Object might change, but the fact that you are observing will not change. That will flow like a river. That will continue. So no matter what happens within you or around you, you are simply aware. So when that quality is with you, that is unremitting mindfulness. And when you have unremitting mindfulness, the discourse on breathing says like this: arising from unremitting mindfulness, one examines, analyzes, and comes to comprehension of that quality of wisdom with discernment, which is refinement. What it means is when you let your awareness to flow like that, you will have to change your behavior, you will have to change your attitude, you will have to change your way of thinking, and you will have to allow things to happen as it is. As a result, you will come into areas of your physical and mental process where you have not seen or taken to surface in the past. So when those things arise, right, you will just examine them, you will just let them happen and try to comprehend them. Try to comprehend them in the sense you maintain your unremitting mindfulness. When you maintain your unremitting mindfulness, whatever happens, maybe you're observing your breath and you start observing that breath is vanishing, breath is getting subtler, very subtle, and it comes to the subtlest. It comes to a point that you can't even observe your breath. Now it's an area where you have not seen when you do your day-to-day activities, right? So that is an investigation that is happening because of unremitting mindfulness. And I have just given a very simple example that most of the practitioners will be able to experience. So there are like that. There are a lot of other areas that may come to surface like that, right? So now, because of this examination and analysis and comes to comprehension, the Blessed One says, energy is arising as a factor for enlightenment, right? So this is how the Blessed One mentions there. In one who examines, analyzes, and comes to comprehension of that quality of wisdom with discernment, tireless energy is aroused. Tireless energy is the energy that is taken as a factor for enlightenment. Why, if I take the same example of breath getting subtler, when the breath gets subtle, it is going to be very hard for a person who is living to observe it, because your mind is suggesting that you are losing your breath. And a lot of people start making a lot of noises when that happens. And certain people can't bear it up. And a lot of physical motions and physical reflections will start, right? That is because you are not used to it, right? But if at one point, after continuing your practice for a long time, what happens is you develop an energy that you don't give it up. You keep observing, which means that you are not tired of it. So tireless energy is aroused, and in the language of the Buddha, which is much more meaningful, and it is very difficult to find an English term for it in different books, different translations, and even in the investigation, the word that they are using examines, analyzes, and comes to comprehension is giving the impression that you have got to do something. I would like to remind you there that there is nothing for you to do. Only thing that you should do is not do anything. Let it happen, right? So just this not doing anything is the most difficult thing that human beings can do. We are masters in going for the next galaxy, right? We will dig the earth and come out to the other side. We can do all that. But I asked someone to sit for 5 minutes without doing anything. Impossible. Impossible. You understand yourself when you started. Now, since you have been practicing for some time, you know you can sit there for 1 hour, 1.5 hours, 2 hours, no problem. But what is your population compared to the population of the world? 0.00001%. Most of the people just can't live at least for 5 seconds without doing it, right? So when I say without doing anything, it goes into doing things physically, doing things verbally, doing things mentally. So we do things at 3 different layers. So gradually, we either rather stop doing things intentionally. There will be things happening without our intention, without our involvement. We are not going to poke our fingers into them. You don't try to stop your breathing. Breathing will happen even if you don't feel it. You are not going to close your nose and stop your breath. That's not what I mean. What I mean is things that we intentionally do, either verbal or physical or mental, will subside, will come to the bare minimum that is required for our existence, right? So, and for you, the ability that you will have to do that is called energy, because this energy is not the energy that is required to go to the moon or to go even beyond. It is not the energy that is required to dig the earth. It is an energy that goes the other way. It's going against the grain. We are swimming upstream now, right? And that is the energy that where you will be tired very easily. But if you keep continuing, and that gives you tireless energy, and that is called energy as a factor for enlightenment. Now, why you do this? And that discourse says why you do this is because when you don't do anything, you are coming out of your normal life, normal way of living. In other words, you are coming out of your sensual world. You are coming out of your sense indulgence. You are coming into even when you really allow things to happen and when you keep on observing, you will come out of your sense desires as well. Sense desire means when you don't involve in self-indulgence, when you stop, when you come and sit here for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or half an hour, you are not doing any sensual things. But the images of those sensual activities that you have been doing will keep coming as thoughts or as mental objects, right? You may remember the things that you have seen, things that you have heard, things that you have tasted, the places you have visited. You will remember about your boyfriend, girlfriend, and what you did last night. All these things will come into your mind. Right? That is called sense desire. So when you practice and when you allow things to happen and just observe your physical and mental process, even that will subside, because you are not hating it, you are not liking it, you just observe that. When you just observe it, even that will not develop, even that will gradually subside, that will fade away, right? And in other words, what I want to tell you is, when this is happening, what you do is you conserve your energy. If you go outside to see things, to hear things, to taste things, you will have to invest your energy. I would say waste your energy. But instead, when you come and sit here, you save your energy, you conserve your energy by not doing anything, but not sleeping, keeping awake, observing 100% what is going on. That conservation of energy by giving up other things makes you happier, because you don't have a friction now. Less friction when you come out of the sensual world. And that is called rapture. And this is how the Blessed One says, one who has aroused energy means one who is just observing without doing anything. Unworldly rapture arises. Unworldly rapture means rapture which is not available in the sensual world. You have rapture even in the sensual world. That is why whenever you go to work and tell your friends, I'm going on holiday next week, the immediate question is, are you excited? Yes, there is some excitement in anything that you do in sensual world, and that excitement is the rapture. You have a rapture in this as well. But this rapture is not worldly rapture. This rapture is unworldly rapture. And it is rapture arising from awareness. It's not just rapture arising from awareness. It's a rapture arising from the appreciation of awareness. It arises from awareness, and you just appreciate that it is coming from awareness as well. And rapture arising from continuation of awareness, even when the object is changing. You're observing your what you call breath, and it changes, doesn't matter. You start feeling that calmness that the mind enjoys physically. And so that is rapture. So the rapture will be classified, we have discussed in the last meeting, that there are 5 types of raptures. First one is weak rapture, and that weak rapture is happening. You may have felt, some of you may have felt goosebumps while practicing. So if you feel some goosebumps, or if you feel some itchiness, or worms on your face, like, or ants crawling on your face when you are practicing, or not only just face, even in your hands or anywhere in your body, that's the weak rapture. So you feel that mental calmness on your body. Your sensitivity of the physicality increases. And then the next one is called short rapture. And there what happens is you feel a bit of electric shock-like things, or some thundering within you, some lights, quick lights may appear and vanish. So that means you even go deeper into your physical process and you start seeing this basic electromagnetic communications in your system. And next one is called going down rapture, which means you see body bit more closer. You may see the body as appearing and disappearing. You may feel that body is like a sea wave that is happening, right? So that is when the mind is getting more and more close to the body, you start seeing minor details of your physical process of your body. And the next one is Ubbega Priti, we call it exalting rapture, where you may feel, you feel a lot of jerks. You feel a lot of movements in the body. You feel raising your hand and worshiping, right? And a lot of physical movements will happen. You may feel that you are floating up in the sky. Those things are not that actually happening. You will have those type of things feeling in your body. And then the last one is fulfilling rapture, and you feel that you are put into a huge water bubble and you are just in there. Or you may feel that you are in a cave of water, and or in a well of water, and you are just in there. So this is what we have discussed in the past few sessions so far, and especially relating to factors of enlightenment. Now, today we will be taking the new topic, which is tranquility. So again, I would like to remind that Blessed One is not teaching in Four Foundations of Mindfulness what tranquility is. It is mentioning its nature, that is its changing nature, but we will try to understand a bit more details of it. And when I say a bit more details of it, this is how the definition of tranquility is given in the Mindfulness of Breathing discourse. And it says, in one who is rapturous, the body and the mind becomes tranquil. On whatever occasion the body and the mind becomes tranquil in a bhikkhu who is rapturous, on that occasion, tranquility enlightenment factor is aroused in him. And that develops and comes to its fulfillment with the continuation of the practice. So this is the definition. I will repeat it. Tranquility means tranquility of the body and the mind as a result of heightened rapture. One who is rapturous will have a tranquil body and the mind, and that is called the tranquility enlightenment factor. In Pali, in Buddha's language, we call it Priti Manassa Kayampi Passambati Chittampi Passambati. Priti Manassa means one who has a rapturous mind. Kayampi pasambati means it calms down his body. It calms down his physical process. Chittampi pasambati means calms down his mental process. Right? So, to whom does this happen? To the person who is rapturous when just by observing the things that are unfolding. Right? So, we will see the general meaning of it. If you remember about the 5 raptures I just mentioned, and those 5 raptures are showing a sort of process. It starts with like ants crawling on your face or on the body, and then goes to electric shock, and then you start feeling the jerks in your body, and then you feel that it is getting even aggravated, and then you feel finally you are in a water bubble or in a well, something like that. So which means because when the mind is getting calmer, that calm mind reflects or creates a mental image, mental impression of the calmness physically. And that is what is happening. So it's the mental projection of, or rather I should say, physical projection of the mental happiness. And that physical, it's a projection and not something that actually happens. Right? And as a result, from this process, what happens is even this projection gradually settles down. Why the projection gradually settles down is because the mind is learning a new art now. The art that the mind is learning now is just observing, means not doing anything. When you don't do anything, you don't want even your body to show all these acrobatic things. Right? So therefore, since you continue your observation, those acrobatic activities that the mind is projecting will subside. And that calms down. It settles down. When they settles down, on one hand, you settle down physically, and on the other hand, it's a mental settle down as well. So mental calmness leads to the physical calmness. Right? So this happens only once you have gone through that rapture. So you can call it, in some translations, they have mentioned serenity and settling in. And definitely, when you talk about tranquility or the word pasambati, it is not agitated at all. Right? It's very, very peaceful. And this comes from only the practice. You can't have pasambati or you can't have tranquility in the sensual world. It comes from the practice, and it is not coming from what you call the sensual world. It is not coming from generosity as well. It is not coming from just being virtuous as well. Right? For this to happen, you must continue your practice, and you should have tranquilizing of the body and tranquilizing of the mind. So this tranquilizing of the body and the mind is what is discussed here. So we will see the meaning of tranquilizing of the body in the 4 foundations of mindfulness and in many other discourses. The Blessed One is saying how the body is tranquilizing. And this is how he says, especially in regard to breathing mindfulness, he's mentioning, ever mindful he breathes in, mindful he breathes out. That's how you start. And breathing in long, he understands I breathe in long. Or breathing out long, we understand I breathe out long. So that is what happens when you pay your attention. You can observe that things are happening, and what things are happening are noticeable, tangible. And then after doing it for some time, he breathes in short. He understands I breathe in short. You don't make it longer or gross or more coarse. And breathe out short, he understands I breathe out short. So which means you let the breath to change in the normal, natural manner. And when that happens, the Blessed One says, he learns thus, I shall breathe in experiencing the whole body. He learns that I shall breathe out experiencing the whole body. Which means when the breath becomes shorter, it is easier for you to lose your mindfulness. But if you know that you are breathing short, means your object is becoming subtler. Tangibility of or the perceivability of your object is dropping, reducing, but your attention is increasing. Attention is developing. So that is the meaning, that you understand breathing short and you understand breathe out short when it is happening in that manner. Your attention is heightened now comparatively. When the attention is heightened up, the breath becomes even shorter. And where does this breath go? It goes to your body. And with the breath, what goes into the body is your mind. Because when breath goes in, it goes to the heart and it transports blood, and it helps the whole body to function. So with that air column, or with the air, you take mind also to the body now. Because your attention is so sharp. And when the mind goes to the body, you experience the whole body. You still breathe in very subtle. You still breathe out very subtle. But now you experience the whole body. And that experiencing of the whole body may happen, some may feel it, body becomes very stiff. Some may feel it, body starts moving, shaking. And some may feel with sweating, right? So there are a lot of indications of it. So whatever it is, you start feeling your whole body. And some may even feel arising and passing away, or appearing and disappearing, or generation and regeneration and degeneration of your muscles. Right? So many things you may feel, but in general, you may feel your whole body. And when you feel the whole body, only your rapture is developing. So the next stage, the Blessed One says, another paragraph in relation to breathing in and breathing out. And this is what he says. He learns that I shall breathe in, tranquilizing the bodily formation. He learns that I shall breathe in, tranquilizing the bodily, breathe out, tranquilizing the bodily formation. Tranquilizing bodily formation means now you keep on breathing, you keep on observing. When you keep on observing, what happens is this whole body feeling phenomena also gradually reduces, also gradually vanishes. Why? Only thing you do is observation. And when you observe, you don't hold on to any sign. You don't hold into any manner. You don't hold into any shape. You don't hold on to any intentional thing that you are doing. So therefore, in your mind, you learn the art of giving up. So when you start giving up, the fact that you were feeling your whole body also gradually, although you felt it, but after practicing it for some time, you start feeling that you don't have your body. You know you are living. You know that something is there. But this bodily formation of jerks and stiffness and movements and generation and regeneration and degeneration feeling, and all that subsides. And that subsiding, if you allow, if you're strong enough to observe that, and that is called tranquilizing of the bodily formation. And when this tranquilizing of the bodily formation and those, they are the indications that the mind is in the body, and then teachers will ask, explain them what is happening and ask them to continue the practice. And if you continue the practice, and if as a result, your shaking will gradually subside, your stiffness will gradually subside, your setting will gradually subside if these things are happening, and the body or that brings out the tranquility of the body, right? So this is how the body tranquility will happen using breathing. And it is not necessary that should happen only in breathing. It may happen in walking as well. It may happen in any other activity as well, right? So in the same way, tranquilizing of the mind also happens. And how that happens is your mental projections of happiness will gradually subside. Mental projection of happiness means, should be able to remember, in rapture, there were certain physical things I was explaining. And those physical things are mainly the projections of the mind. Those projections also start vanishing, starts reducing. So which means mind is also now taking a rest, right? Subsiding the mental projection of happiness happens. So then the mind is gradually getting closer to the tranquility state. So this may happen in feelings mainly, right? So when the mind is in the body, what you will feel is either painful feeling, your knee will be painful, or your bottom will be painful, or your spinal may be painful, or maybe you may have a pleasant feeling, if not an unpleasant feeling. So whatever it is, you just keep observing. As a result of the observation, this unpleasant feeling gradually will vanish, or it will move from one place to another. Pleasant feeling also will gradually come down, right? So what happens is, because of your observation, the things that were agitating you or things that you started liking will even out, will start balance. Now that balancing is indicating that the mind is tranquilizing, mind is settling in. So tranquilizing both the body and the mind is therefore called the tranquility, and it's like cooking rice. When you cook rice, and once you turn on the rice cooker, initially when it is cooking, it will be bubbling up and it will have noise and all sorts of things. But once it is actually cooked, all this bubbling up and water boiling will gradually subside, and it will gradually settles down. So like something like that will happen when you continue the practice in this manner for some time without any hesitation. So the food that is necessary to bring about tranquility is called Yoniso manasikara bahulikaro. It's the same food that we that the Blessed One suggested for the rapture enlightenment factor is applicable here. Yoniso manasikara bahulikaro means frequently giving careful attention to the beginning of the evolving phenomena. If you start shaking, you somehow try to observe its beginning. If you feel regeneration and degeneration in your body, you try to see its beginning. Try to go to the bottom as much as possible. So this does not happen overnight. Blessed One says, you will have to do it slowly, little by little, gradually, like a professional gold cleaner. The professional gold cleaners, they take the jewelry and put into fire, right? And then take out, put into water, and then rub it and brush it. So in that manner, you gradually clean the gold. So this is how the tranquility develops, and Buddha takes you to what you are looking for completely in a different way. If not for him, I don't think we would ever find it in our own way. So even if he has taught the right way, you know how difficult it is for us to our mind to accept it. So the only secret for the path is to keep the mindfulness to the fore. And so please don't forget, Buddha doesn't teach here tranquility and any other enlightenment factor. He says, although you develop them, although you can develop them, they too are impermanent. And that is the message of the Buddha. Your job is just to be aware of what is unfolding. So may you all be able to develop tranquility and accept when it is changing. Peruvan Saranai.
Bhante, I want to explain the current, like a present practice actually. What like last couple of weeks, what I'm doing is like, especially this happens during sitting meditation, and walking meditation is quite usual. Like it same thing. But I do this many times. Like not like I can see mind is settling, but also like walking like in autopilot mode, and then due to some physical movement or like slowing down or some form of a signal, I come back to from the unknown place to the present moment. Like, and then what I do is I bring my attention to what I'm doing, like where I begin like it's if it's attention to the food, or where I touch, and immediately I'm going back. Like there's a process. I can observe a couple of movements, and then a bit of a kind of like a light and dark. There's a moment, and then transfer into a location, and that's quite prominent in sitting meditation. Like sitting meditation start with first body scanning, and then quite quickly goes to the breath. And breath, basically I can go a couple of breath cycles and then start the process, and then get into the unknown location. And then the main thing is like body posture, like something, I think one of my expectation, like I feel like my natural body posture is like bending and kind of very liquidy. And but I always try to start with the straight posture, and I have muscle tension and things like that, and then I can see cracking, and also when I go, I bend, but I'm not falling, and but for some reason I kind of awakening with a bit of shock, and then I instantly go into the where I started, and then I feel that process happening again and again and again. This might be happen like 100 times. I do this, but I continue the same thing. I wanna kind of advise if this is okay, or what anything I need to do at this stage.
So far as sitting is concerned, bending is fine, and it is even better since you mentioned that it is happening very frequently and many times, right? It is happening many times means, it is happening very frequently means you are not stuck there. Means you are becoming more and more mindful of that very frequently, right? So that is why a lot of cycles are happening, right? So there's a lot of cycles are happening means you are getting closer to the beginning of the process, right? So let me put it this way: you are bending means you keep your attention to your breath or sitting posture or whatever. When you keep the attention to that, you settle into it. So when you settle into it, what happens is you gradually depreciate your ego. Your self-identity is reducing, right? So when the self-identity is reducing and the ego is vanishing, what happens is you don't take any perceptions of your body. So since you don't take your perceptions of the body starts experiencing or behaving the way the matter behaves. The matter behaves, as you said, maybe in this case, in a fluidity way. So it starts bending, right? And that's one thing. And the other thing is, since you are getting more and more absorbed into the body, you are becoming more and more concentrated, and that concentration sucks your energy in. So when the concentration is taking your energy, you don't have the energy to keep the body erect, right? So it's because of the development of concentration, the energy factor is reduced, right? So you mentioned that whenever you observe it, you get a bit of a shock light, which means the right energy starts. You are getting energized, and then you straighten up, and once again you get there. Once again you fall down and then get a shock and start. So which means it is happening very frequently. So the duration within which you will stay fallen is getting shorter, right? Which means you are getting closer to the point that you will start falling. So if you awake into that yoniso point, that becomes yoniso manasikara, and after that your falling will be under your control. Does it make sense?
Falling will be, I didn't hear the last bit.
The falling will be under your control.
Okay.
or it may go into another layer of falling. So there are two ways you can do it. One is the way you are doing, you allow the natural process to happen. So you just keep practicing, and then it will take its time and the frequency will increase. When the frequency increases, it will slowly come to the beginning and everything will be okay without your knowledge. Or the other thing is you can go prepared. You can go prepared. Now today, okay, I will observe my breath, but at one or the other point, when my breath becomes subtler, I am trying to see how the falling starts. Take that as the object. So when you take that as the object, you will have to be more vigilant than observing your breath. Breath is something which has been so neutral and you have been observing it and it has become subtler and you also become subtle with it. But if you give your mind another job to do, mind will be energized. So you can do even that. So that should be done so long as you are not getting agitated. If you get agitated by doing that, then let the natural process happen.
During these cycles, I don't know how I remember, but I done at least not lot, but couple of cycles at least. Without that shock, it's like a automatic correction, like come to the. But that's a rare one, and it's I think towards closer to the initially I got that, and then I didn't have any issue with it. Like I thought that's fine. I mean, if it's a auto correction, I don't want to go and give mind instructions how to do that and this and that. It's fine as long as if it's But I'll try this one as well. I go a little bit prepared this time because it's a rare one for the auto correction at the moment.
Yeah, and the basic advice is this is normal. Just keep observing. And the other thing is, if possible, when you awake, when you are fallen, just be mindful. Don't straighten up intentionally.
All right.
If you do it intentionally, don't do it intentionally. If it is naturally happening, that's fine. But when you know that you have fallen, just be aware of the fact that you have fallen and see what the body says and does after that. Take your mind as much as possible to the body.
Okay.
Right, but it's happening. So it has to take its time. So just continue what you are doing. There is nothing wrong.
All right. Thanks, Bud.
Everyone, Sarah. Anybody else?
I have a question.
Yes, Zach.
Is it better to be chaotic or to be tranquil?
It is better to be chaotic or tranquil.
Yes.
Yeah. So far as mindfulness is concerned, we don't care what it is. So long as you are aware, when you are in chaotic situation, when you are confused, if you are aware, that confusion should subside one or the other time. And if you are tranquil, that is what the Blessed One says. If you are tranquil, that tranquility will become chaotic one or the other time. So only thing what you do is you just keep observing without preferring one and prejudicing the other.
Okay, final question. Is it better to be mindful or unmindful?
Very good question. Very good question. Even mindfulness is not permanent. So if you know that you are unmindful, that itself is mindfulness.
It's so incredibly frustrating.
Incredibly frustrating.
Very,
Yeah, very precisely correct. Very precisely correct, because when you are mindful, only thing that you will see is that we can't hold on to things. We can't control things. Everything is changing. So we will have to, Blessed One is trying or suggesting us to accept this fact of life.
Yeah.
And for that requires non-judgment, that requires non-reaction, bare attention, simple attention.
Thank you for your answer.
No problem. I don't know whether you liked it or accepted it. Definitely you didn't like, but I'm sure you at least accepted 40%.
39.
39. That's a bit of a bargain.
1%, 9.9.
All right. So we will say 50-50. That's okay. Anything else? All right. So why don't you come? Why do you come only one Wednesday, Sak?
Do you mean why do I come every 2 weeks?
That's right.
Actually, that's because recently I've been experiencing chaos, and yeah, whenever I come here, I have a very extreme reaction. So lots of movement, lots of emotion comes.
Right.
And last week and also 3 weeks ago, I thought, oh my goodness, at the moment I'm so incredibly emotional. If I go on this night, I'll probably just explode everywhere. So I avoided the place, because you know this place is very peaceful, and my ego hates it.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, no, that's okay. That's good that you understand yourself, and then it is not necessary to push, not necessary to go fast or hard. Take it at your pace. That is very important.
My aim, my goal is certainly to come weekly, every Wednesday.
Yeah, but I would suggest you can have that goal in the back of your mind, but don't push for it. Don't push for it. It is not necessary for us to have unnecessary trouble, unnecessary suffering. Take one thing at a time, and you do that slowly and mindfully, and everything will fall into line. And when you feel that you are chaotic or things are chaotic, just that's a very good opportunity to be mindful, to see how these things are bothering us, and how we feel that in our body, and how our mental process is taking us for a ride. Just go to the back seat and observe. Yeah.
Yes, really.
All right. So if there is no other questions or comments or complaints, we can pass these positive energies to all the beings, chanting the usual stanzas.